Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Above Average Podcast, the only refuge for the slightly above average. Today we have a special top five slash follow up episode to my previous ramblings about everything, everywhere, all at once. Tanim, how you doing?
Can you?
Oh, pretty good. Did you watch it? Did you watch everything, everywhere, all at once?
I still haven't yet.
Man, go do that. Anyway, so the reason I felt we had to do a follow up episode so quickly is because Vox came out with this article, and I don't think I agree with it, but I'll just tell you the premise anyway. That there's a hot new trend of what they call the millennial parental apology fantasy, which is basically like they're saying there's a whole new subgenre of movies which includes everything everywhere, that it's about like you know, our fantasies of our parents apologizing to us for like shoddy parenting.
Right.
So, you know, for like various neglects. Now, I don't think this is a new genre of movies, but I don't know. Does this appeal to you? Do you feel like you need an apology fantasy movie?
Definitely not, but I guess I don't really look into the movies as like parental apology films. They're just like animated ones or just tell kind of like a
Yeah.
coming to age
So the
story
two,
of like a teenager.
yeah. So yeah, the I should contextualize that. The two films they really focus on are Turning Red and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I don't know that those I don't know that that's like the main premise of the movie. And they're kind of coming at it from two different angles, because Everything Everywhere All at Once is very much from the perspective of the mother, whereas Turning Red is from the perspective of the child. So they're two different movies, kind of right out of the bat or right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But I can see people would think they're similar, but I don't think these are. I don't think this is new. But I thought we're going to talk about like a little after why I don't think this is new, because I think this is just kind of a continuation of. Remember those '90s movies where they were about like, oh, the dad just needs to learn to stop working so much at the fucking business factory, and all that really matters is his kids, like, and he has that moment where like daddy daycare, where it's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't need my fancy job in advertising. I just need to spend time with my family. And I think that's what like every Adam Sandler movie is about now ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Click. Like
Big
just ever,
Daddy.
ever since he had kids, that's what all of his movies about. Whereas like his movies before were about like fucking around and like maybe kind of learning the consequences of your actions, but like not really, because you win at golf. I think Eight Crazy Nights is like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Anywho, we're gonna do the top five parental apology fantasy.
I feel like Vox kind of stretched this article and like needed something to write.
Yeah, no, maybe. But on the other hand, I think it's like, I don't think it's like a fantasy. Like, I think it's more, what else are we going to write about than like relationships between parents and kids kind of thing? Because it takes up a lot of our lives. Like, your kids and your parents take up like a lot of your, mental space.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like the category is a little too broad. But anyway, so number five, I'm going to say, is Finding Nemo. And Finding Nemo, I'm going to say specifically, is like the first millennial parental apology movie. Whereas, like, I think the 1990s and 1980s, like, My Parents Need to Work Less movies are a little more about like boomers and their parents, them thinking like, God, I wish my dad didn't work so much and like spent more time with me. But Finding Nemo is kind of more, I wish my dad was less of a helicopter parent. So like, it's still from the perspective of the dad, so it's not quite a millennial parental apology film, but it's at least not in the way I kind of imagine the genre, but it is in the way Vox imagines it, because they included everything everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, Finding Nemo, great movie, but also from 2003, so this is not a new trend. Number four, I'm going to say, is Back to the Future. Now, this isn't quite an apology movie, because the apology doesn't really happen, but it's a little bit more about, kids being vindicated. It's more of a parental vindication movie. So, the movie starts out and Marty's parents are giving him shit for like, hanging out with his girlfriend and drinking and, that sort of thing. And then he gets to go back in time and find out like his parents were like drinking and smoking and hanging out with boys in parked cars. So, and it's a little gross and weird, the way he finds out. But what Marty McFly never quite what he never quite appreciates is like, oh yeah, I get to be on the moral high horse with my parents for fucking ever now, because I saw you be high school fuck ups. So yeah,
And his mom went after him.
exactly. And so that was gross and weird. That's probably like the most disturbing thing to happen in like a moderately family friendly like Spielberg type movie, but I still love the movie. And number 3 revenge fantasy movies is that one episode of The Orville where Alara's parents apologize to her for pretending she's a dumbass the whole time. So I don't give a shit. I'm putting a TV show in this list. But you ever see The Orville?
I think I've seen it. Yeah, a couple episodes.
Okay, so it's like, it's Seth MacFarlane just ripping on Star Trek. But the one episode where like their security chief, who comes from a species of people who are freakishly strong, but they're like, contrary to what you would expect, they value intellectual achievement a lot more. And she's like, normal, pretty smart, but by the standards of her people, she's like disabled essentially, or at least her parents treat her that way. And they're very like condescending towards her, and she ends up like having to save their lives, and the dad like breaks down crying. He's like, I don't know you, I never knew you. But it's like that was like a parental apology fantasy like distilled to like its truest form. So for like anyone whose parents were like never proud of them, or like you weren't the favorite of your siblings, like that, that moment is for you. It had the most vindication of everything else. So it was like, I'm putting it on number 3 on the list because it's a TV show.
All right.
And also it's kind of dumb, but that's like that. I think that's like truest to the fantasy of all the places. Bonus mention to F is for Family, which is just Bill Burr psychologically dealing with his father, the whole genre, and like watching his father like kind of realize his faults and improve. So that gets an honorable mention kind of there. But anyway, number 2 is Ron, which is really just a Japanese remake of King Lear. So if you want to say King Lear is the original parental apology fantasy movie, you're free to do so, but Ron is better. So Ron is the last film by legendary Japanese director Akira Kurosawa. And basically he tells the story of King Lear, except it's set in like Sengoku era Japan, and his 3 sons are fighting over his domain.
Yeah.
And he realizes his one young son was right, and as he watches his kingdom burn around him. But really good, really spectacular battle scenes. And it's kind of incredible because Akira Kurosawa, because he started out doing black and white, I think he does some really cool things with color in the movie.
Yeah.
Like in a way that I think someone who just takes color existing in film for granted wouldn't. Like in terms of like how he sets the mood, how he distinguishes one group of people from another, the contrast of it all. It's really cool. And it was and I think people's last movies aren't usually their best, but Ron is certainly like up there, because people don't give a shit when they're near the end of their career. They're like, okay, I want to cash this last check and go away to the Bahamas. But it's a good one. It's probably the best film rendition of King Lear.
Got it.
And then number 1 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I know I said before, it's not quite a parental revenge fantasy or not revenge fantasy, parental apology fantasy in like the purest sense of the term, because it's a lot more about the parent's journey than the child's journey.
Yeah.
but it's definitely like, one of the best movies I've ever seen about, the subject matter of like parent child relationships. So yeah, that just gets to be number one. It's really kooky. It's very genre bending, and it's extremely funny.
Wasn't Shang-Chi kind of like that?
Oh yeah, so Shang-Chi is like, they're kind of a bit of the opposite of that, I would say. Like, and Shang-Chi is like, your parents were bad the whole time kind of movie. Like, I thought it was cool because it was like very anti-Confucius at a time when like, and that was like a bold decision to make as like their first like Chinese American led film,
Marvel, yeah.
as Disney to, yeah, especially at a time when China is, or at least the Chinese Communist Party is trying to like bring back what they call traditional Confucian values, that they should make a movie that's like so explicitly like anti-Confucian, in that the movie is like a complete rejection of filial piety, and that like, no, you don't owe your father anything if he's like a
A dick,
shit
yeah.
who wants to take over the world with the 10 rings. Yeah. So that's my top five parental apology fantasy movies, mostly so I could plug everything everywhere all at once.
You should work for them.
No, I know I really should. I can't talk about it as much because it's too recent. It's still in theaters. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's really, really, really funny, and everyone should go see it, including you, Tanim, especially.
It's on my list whenever I've got some time.
Spend currency on this film. Okay, so what's your top five?
Yeah, I mean, so no kind of like particular order, just kind of go watch them. I'm going to do animated so you can watch these movies with like your parents. And
So not Back to the Future.
I'm going to go 5, Turning Red, 4, Rick and Morty, 3, I'm going to go with F is for Family, 2, we're going to go with, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and then 1, which is underrated and old school, but like I think one of the best Disney movies, which is a Goofy movie.
Wait, is that the one where he takes Goofy takes his son on a road
Yeah,
trip?
but he's all like into like this one girl, and he has to decide whether he wants to chill with his dad or see this girl.
Okay, and he chooses the girl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he chooses the girl, but then like it's like, no, family. It's more
Realizes what his dad did to do that.
yeah, man. Goofy had sex. That's weird. That's not right, man. I don't like that. So wait, so you're plugging Mitchell's so I'm here plugging fucking everything everywhere all at once and F is for Family again, but like you're plugging the Mitchells versus the Machines again.
Yeah.
So what's that about? Is that like, is it about like parents, accepting their kids, or
Yeah, it's about a dad that's not kind of like relating to his daughter, and then his daughter kind of like being herself and trying to kind of escape that box of you gotta act a certain way, talk a certain way.
okay, like not so it's not like a you must inherit the family business / kingdom type thing. It's more like cross cultural balance.
No, you don't have to take over the convenience store.
So it's more of a cross cultural, like a cultural generational
Yeah.
boundary thing. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we're plugging Mitchell's versus the Machines again.
Better than Turning Red.
Apparently. Okay, nice. Yeah, no, yeah. So everything everywhere all at once. I feel like there's there's kind of that like the generational thing, but it's kind of like exacerbated by the fact, there's some cultural differences between the mother and daughter, because the mother's like first generation immigrant, daughter's a second generation immigrant. Yeah, second generation American. So she like grew up in California, doesn't really speak Mandarin, has a girlfriend. So, and her mom's like a little more old school, and doesn't want to tell her dad that her daughter's gay. But
Yeah, that's similar with Mitchell's and versus Machine.
okay, yeah. So, which, I think Turning Red and Everything Everywhere could be like interpreted as like an immigrant parent, parental apology fantasy, just in the sense like they're both about like Chinese American and Chinese Canadian families kind of coming to terms with like their Canadian born and American born kids. Though I think the mom is also second generation in Turning Red, but still, that's kind of like a weirdly, it's kind of funny how like after getting like no Asian American and Asian Canadian movies, we get kind of two in the same year that are a little about a similar subject.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, when was the last movie with like a Chinese American lead? When was Lucy Liu's last movie?
I don't know, some like Charlie's Angels movie.
Okay. Okay, so that's pretty different. So like, Lucy. So this is like the first one, and the first like Asian American led film. Okay, wait. Oh no, I guess the most recent big one I guess would be Crazy Rich Asians. So that's not really about mother-daughter stuff. That's more like mother-in-law daughter-in-law stuff. But also had Michelle Yeoh in it. So, you know, she's out there kicking ass. But Crazy Rich Asians was weird because it's like everyone's kind of shitting on the new daughter-in-law coming into the family and thinking like,
She's not good enough.
yeah, she's not good enough, or with the implication she's kind of being a gold digger. But like, on the other hand, there's not really much to the main character that makes you think like, oh yeah, she's awesome. And like Henry, what's the dude's name? Henry Goulding.
No idea.
Henry Golding. Yes, I was right the first time. Yeah. So like, there's nothing really in it for me to say like, oh yeah, Constance Wu or Rachel Chu, whatever, whichever. There's nothing in the movie for me to
Whichever
say,
Asian she is.
no, but like, the character and the actress. But yeah, there's nothing for me to say like Constance Wu's character like totally deserves Henry Golding. Like I feel like they don't spend enough time on her to say why, like, oh, this is why she's awesome. Whereas like Jimmy O's character is just awesome. He's just having parties on yachts in international waters and firing rocket launchers. Like, he's great. Like, if he was trying to date Henry Goulding, I'd be like, yes, this man is a free spirit. So, that I would totally get that. But yeah, no, they just I feel like they didn't establish enough why she's not undeserving.
Yeah.
But that's all that irritated me about the movie. It was, it's very well shot, very pretty film. I laughed at a couple times, but like, weirdly, the star characters I find is like the least interesting of the cast. So it's an odd one. It's an odd one. Do you think that's the point?
Of that movie?
That like, or just that like Constance Wu's character is supposed to be like kind of this like the straight man who like has to be like the foil to this quirky
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just
like, the fact that she's not funny is on purpose.
yeah.
Anywho, so like I said before, this parental apology fantasy movie, I would say, is just kind of a continuation of like the 90s era overworked parent learning to like love their family subgenre, usually Christmas movies.
Which most millennials haven't watched.
No. Oh, come on. What are you talking about? Those, like, we grew up on that shit. Like, we grew up watching these movies because like they all came out in the 90s, and like, they were our classic Christmas movies. Like, I'm just gonna mention Home Alone, Liar Liar, the Jim Carrey movie where he
Lies.
he can't lie. He can't lie anymore. He realizes his job as a big fancy city lawyer is not important, and all that's important is his son and his fucking evil stepdad trying to be nice to him and take him away and undermine me as a parent. Like, I'm just saying, like, some divorced dads wrote this.
This one really spoke to you, I can tell.
No, not really, but like, I'm not a divorced dad, but like, I know some Hollywood divorced dad wrote Liar Liar. Anyway, so like, top 5 of these ones. Oh yeah, so I would say like the difference between like a parental neglect film, like an overworked parental neglect film, and an apology fantasy film, is the focus of the story of an overworked parental neglect film is like on the parent learning to work less and value their family more. Whereas like the focus of the movie of a parental apology fantasy is more about like the closure of the kid. What did they always want from their parent? And the climax of the movie is more being vindicated there, like the child being vindicated, as opposed to like the parent going on a journey. So it's subtle, but I think it's there. But like, and they're similar enough that I think there's kind of a clear like, or rather the opposite, like a blurry line between the two.
All right.
Yeah. Does that do you accept my definition?
Sure. What's your top five?
Okay. So number 5 is Hook slash Mrs. Doubtfire because they're the same movie. Robin Williams, big fancy city lawyer. Wait, no,
Was he
that's
a
not
lawyer?
Mrs.
No.
Doubtfire. He's a lawyer in Hook,
Oh.
I think. I don't know. It's like it's a 90s kids movie. The dad is just like some businessman at the business factory. It doesn't really like they just throw around bullshit business words and like have important phone calls with their boss and like meetings so they can't come to their kid's baseball game. You know, that sort of shit. Like it doesn't really matter what they do. Anyway, um yeah, so Robin Williams, big fancy city lawyer, you know, learns that work isn't important and instead being Peter Pan is important.
What about Jumanji?
Is Jumanji like that?
I don't know. Didn't
I've
he
seen
like
Jumanji.
apologize to his kids and like want to spend more time with them?
Was he an overworked dad?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, if he was an overworked dad, then yeah, that falls into the category.
3 movies for Robin Williams.
3 movies for Robin Williams. I think like Mrs. Doubtfire might actually be different because I think that movie's shtick was like he was kind of a goof off and like didn't take his job as a parent seriously until his kids got taken away or something. Or was like, I don't remember. I think he was kind of like, I remember it was like he's too much fun for his stuffy wife or something like that. I don't know. I don't really get that movie.
Got it.
But anyway, he has to cross dress to see his kids. But yeah, I don't know. Robin Williams movies kind of blend together. Anyway, so yeah, Hook, movie about how you need to stop working at the business factory and instead be Peter Pan and rescue your kids from
And never grow up.
Exactly, and never grow up. I've actually come to think of it, Mrs. Doubtfire and Hook are kind of the opposite because like I think like the Mrs. Doubtfire is like him learning like, oh, maybe I should actually just be like a responsible parent and like not cross dress as an old British lady to see my kids.
I mean, dude looks like a lady.
I mean, you know, if he wanted to like, not that like, anyway. I feel like the lesson of Mrs. Doubtfire was he needed to be a less fun parent, and the lesson of Hook was he needed to be a more fun parent. So I'm getting mixed messages from Robin Williams there. But anyway, so number 4 is Jingle All the Way, you know, about Arnold Schwarzenegger having to like fight other dads to get like this fucking Mega Man toy for his kid. Because, you know, the toy is the most important thing, or being a dad is the most important thing. One of the great Christmas classic about you know, if you're too busy at the business factory, you can't get the Mega
Just
Man
buy a
toy.
gift.
Yeah, just like don't be so busy that you can't buy the gift. And then number 3, I think I was going to say the Santa Claus for this one, which, you know, Tim Allen learns he needs to stop being so busy at the business factory and instead be fucking Santa Claus. So, you know, that's one way to do it. But anyway, instead of that, I'm going to go with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, where Chevy Chase learns that he needs to stop being so busy at the business factory, and who doesn't give him his Christmas bonus, and instead, you know, kidnap his boss to get his Christmas bonus for his kids. So that was like a great lesson of a Christmas movie. But I don't know, National Lampoon I also like because the lesson was also like your family is terrible and will invade your house and destroy it.
Right.
So, but you also have to spend time with them. But I think like also it was more like, you know, Chevy Chase wants to spend time with his family, but he wants to spend time with them on his terms in like a very like structured 50s dad sort of way. Like, oh, we're going to have like a holly jolly Christmas and, you know, everything's going to be perfect and it's going to look like a Hallmark Christmas card. But, you know, it doesn't work out that way in real life. And I guess he kind of has to accept that. And, you know, like his father says, you need to like be an alcoholic temporarily to get through Christmas.
Words of wisdom.
Great lessons. Number 2 is every Adam Sandler movie. I'm kidding. It's actually Liar Liar, because it's the classic fight the evil stepdad to fight the evil stepdad to get your fucking kids back and stop working so hard as a fancy big city lawyer. And talked about that before, but yeah, some very angry divorced dad made this movie, but it's still pretty funny. What happens if you're a lawyer but you can't lie?
Screwed.
Fucking screwed. Anyway, so the next one, I'm gonna say number 1 is Home Alone, mostly because
They did it multiple times.
yeah, they kept abandoning their kids. It's like, we're so busy with the business factory, it's so busy with our other kids, that we keep abandoning Macaulay Culkin while we go on Christmas vacation. It's also like a great like dangerous Rube Goldberg trap for burglars movie. Like, I do love like a 1990s kids movie that has like some elaborate horrible trap to like basically in real life murder burglars, kind of like the movie Mousetrap. But anyway, yeah, no, so like I feel like the parents of Home Alone didn't really like learn their lesson. Like, they say they do every time, but then they keep doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that they probably have like the most. I'm making this number 1 because they probably have the most severe case of parental neglect. Like, they definitely like forgetting your kid somewhere is like a whole different level. But yeah, so yeah, number 1, fucking Home Alone.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a top 5 list, or do we want to wrap it?
I do not. So just take Lake's advice.
Too specific. Yeah, no, these are my own like deranged thoughts that I have, immediately after we have the podcast. Like, oh, I should have said this and shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh yeah. Honorable mention to the movie Bad Moms and American Beauty, because those are kind of about like the parental fantasy of like, oh man, if only I could just like neglect all of my responsibilities, and that would be awesome. And you're sympathetic because like their lives are pretty bullshit and they are overworked, but at the same time it's nuanced in that like it shows how if you take it too far and decide to just live outside the rules of society, it's kind of a path to being self-destructive, and that's not fair to your kids either. So I mean, they're kind of two different extremes, because like Bad Moms is a little more lighthearted, and that's more about how like she is overworked and like life sucks right now, and but like she still has to like pay attention to her kids because they're also going through some shit at the same time. Whereas like Kevin Spacey's movie is a little more about like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like quit my job and work out and try to fuck my daughter's friend, and then at the very last minute realizing like, oh, maybe it's kind of gross to try and fuck my daughter's friend, and then getting shot in the head.
It won a lot of awards.
I don't really know what they were trying to say there, but because he learns his lesson, but then immediately dies for like an unrelated reason.
Yep, that's life.
So yeah, but that fits into a nice like other 1990s subgenre like of, oh man, it's so hard being like upper middle class in the American suburbs in the 1990s. Woe is me. Like, I don't have any real problems, and that's the problem. So I don't know. It's just like it feels a little too precious now. Like to be like, oh no, upper middle class suburbia. How horrible. Whereas like at least like Breaking Bad is cancer. But yeah, no. I guess go watch American Beauty, but you don't have to. It's a weird one. So yeah, that's those are my deranged follow-up thoughts to last week's podcast.
Nice.
Woo! Later, guys.